do it for a minute, just write that number down. For TPR, a common mistake people make is they don't trust the numbers that they get. So if you're unsure of the number, the best thing to do is to double check it. Do it again. Make sure to count it the way you normally count it. So if it's 30 seconds, do it again for 30 seconds. Just make sure to multiply your number. If you do it for a minute, just write that number down. What students do sometimes is they don't trust themselves and they make a number up. They think, oh, that can't be right. That number is too low, so I'm going to change it to something that makes more sense. But people have all different kind of numbers. Sometimes they're low, sometimes they're high. So if you're unsure, just double check it. Hi Simone, I'm Leanne, your CNA. I'll be taking your vital signs today, your temperature, pulse, and respirations. So let me sanitize my hands and I'll be right back. I'm going to rub my hands together, covering all surfaces until they're completely dry. I'll go ahead and check my bed breaks. And I'll pull the curtain. I'm going to gather my supplies, get a barrier for the table. I'll need a probe cover, a thermometer, and my recording paper. And an alcohol swab. I'm going to go ahead and raise the bed. Okay. I'm just going to go ahead and clean my thermometer and make sure it's sanitized for you. And let that dry a bit. I'm going to put my cover on. It goes right next to the blue arrows, right down into the plastic sheath. And I'm just going to get it on there nice and snug, and then peel away the paper. I'm going to turn my thermometer on, and then you'll see an L and a flashing F, and that means you're ready to go. Put this under your tongue. And I'm going to leave it there until it beeps. And there it beeped. So your temperature is 97.3. I'm going to go ahead and write that down. So it's 97.3. I'm going to go ahead and I will show this to my examiner. And then I'm going to remove my sheath right into the garbage can. And go ahead and turn my thermometer off. And then I'm going to clean it again with an alcohol pad. Alright, so I'm going to take your pulse. There's two different ways to take a pulse. You can count it for 60 seconds, or you can count it for 30 seconds and multiply that number by 2. Whichever method that you pick is fine. Just make sure to stick with that which you've been practicing for your state boards. Some of the mistakes that people make for state boards is they will have done it normally for 30 seconds and multiply it by 2, but then they do it for 60 seconds And they're so used to multiplying it by 2 that that's what they do for state boards. So again, just whatever method that you use is fine. Just stick with it. Same thing for respirations. It is more accurate to do it for a minute, but if you want to do it for 30 seconds and multiply it by 2, that is fine. So the proper placement for your fingers to do pulse is right along, it's on the thumb side. What you'll find if you just go down the bone of the thumb, the side of the wrist where the bone is, slide your finger over right next to the bone. It'll be this little mushy part, and that's where you're going to feel a pulsation of the pulse. So you want to put your fingertip, either your first 2 fingers or your middle 2 fingers. You never use your thumb to feel a pulse, but you can use your thumb to anchor the pulse and get a consistent reading. It's most likely it's better felt closer to the wrist, so you wouldn't want to go way up here. You want to stay close to the wrist. If you push too hard, you're going to squish it down so far that you're not going to feel it. If you're not pushing hard enough, you may miss some of the pulsations and not have an accurate reading. So get it consistent where you can feel it with your fingertips. So you're going to go down the side of the thumb, along the side of the wrist where the bone is. Slide your fingers over right next to the bone. Then you're going to anchor your thumb on the back. It's in that mushy part right there, closer to the wrist. If somebody has an irregular pulse, then you always want to count it for a minute for more accurate results. If I'm counting respirations, a respiration is an inhale and an exhale. That is one. So you don't count partial ones. So a good way to do that is just to wait after a person has exhaled and then start your count. So some students have trouble figuring out where a person is breathing. So you can, sometimes it's in the abdomen, you can see breathing here. Sometimes it's in the chest. So it's just wherever you can see movement, that's where you're going to count. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get your pulse. So there's two ways of doing pulse. You can count it for 30 seconds and multiply by 2, or you can count it for a full minute. So I'll go ahead and count it for a full minute. Start. Stop. I'm going to go ahead and write her pulse down. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and take your pulse, and this time I'm going to do it for 30 seconds. Start. Stop. The number I got was 27. So I'm going to multiply that by 2. And that would be 54. And then I'll record it on the front. All right. And then I'm going to go ahead and take your respirations. Normally, in real life, you would not take a person's respirations and tell them what you were doing. So what you could do instead is just say, you know what, let me double check that number, and then just count the respirations. So I'm going to count this for a full minute as well. Start. Stop. And I'll write that number down. All right, I'm going to write my respirations down. And I'm going to print my name. And then sign the bottom. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and take respirations. Again, normally I would not say that to somebody, but for state boards, they're just seeing if you can get an accurate reading. Start. Stop. So I got 5. So 5 times 2 is 10. And I would record that as 10 respirations. Going to throw my garbage away. Return my thermometer to storage. Lower the bed. Okay, Simone, here is your Colite and your water. Going to put my towel in the hamper. Open your curtain. Is there anything else I can get you? Okay, I'm going to sanitize my hands and then we're done.